Hello Year 9 and welcome to the final video for the topic B4. This is our part 3 of 3 revision looking at respiration, and after Easter you'll go on to your next teacher to do your next topic, okay? So we have our 3 revision sheets. This is revision sheet 3 looking at the respiration part of the topic. So if you've got this sheet, brilliant. If it is with the flashcards, B4 flashcards that I sent to you, if you haven't got it, then you can pause, maybe recreate it in your book or on a sheet of paper. So if you need to do that, pause now. Now here we are looking at aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration, and first of all we're looking at how they work in muscle cells or in any kind of cell in the human body. Okay, so we're going to be talking a lot about muscles, but we're looking at cells in the human body where respiration takes place, and it takes place in the mitochondria, which we learnt about in B1. Mitochondria are found in the cytoplasm of the cells, and that's where respiration takes place. So aerobic respiration, we need to write notes from this page please, is a chemical reaction that releases, it does not create, it does not produce, it releases lots of energy from glucose using oxygen. Okay, so it's in the presence of oxygen. Look at the spelling of aerobic, it's like aero the chocolate, okay? A lot of people miss out that E. Be careful when you write the word aerobic, okay? So releases lots of energy from the glucose using oxygen. When we go into exercise, we're going to talk about this shortly, our muscles can go into anaerobic respiration. It's where we're using so much energy that the rate of respiration increases and not enough oxygen gets to those cells. So the glucose is still there, and the cells break that glucose down in the mitochondria to release some energy, not lots of energy, some energy, and it's in the absence of oxygen, and that's when we call it anaerobic respiration. So those are our 2 definitions, both chemical reactions. Aerobic respiration using oxygen, very efficient. Anaerobic respiration without oxygen, not very efficient, only releases some energy. If you need to pause, pause now. So we said that the respiration occurs in the mitochondria. Mitochondria we learnt a lot about in B1. They're found in the cytoplasm. The fitter you are, the more mitochondria you've got, so therefore the more energy you can release from respiration. And we'll come back to that when we talk about metabolism, okay? So aerobic respiration, I had it on the sheet. Here is our word equation. Notice it's the reverse of photosynthesis. So we take the glucose, that's our chemical store of energy, and it reacts with the oxygen in the mitochondria, forming carbon dioxide, which is a waste product, and water, which is also another waste product, but it's also at the same time releases that energy. As our symbol equation, exactly the same format as photosynthesis. We've got those 3 6s in front of the small molecules, and we've got the glucose there is C6H12O6. And here at the bottom we're just putting details of where the reactants come from and where the products go. So we've got the small intestine here are the villi, okay, we've got all those features we talked about in B1, the large surface area, the thin membrane, large network of capillaries, there's moisture there so that the glucose can dissolve, it's soluble, and go through into the blood. And then we've got the oxygen coming in by diffusion through the alveoli into the blood, and then we've got the carbon dioxide again by diffusion going from the blood into the alveoli. Alveoli, all the same adaptations that the villi have got, okay? Then we've got our loss of water. Some of that water we breathe out. If you breathe on a window, you can see the condensation form. We sweat some of that out, and we also lose some as urine. If you need to pause this page, pause now. So energy changes. We learnt in photosynthesis that because photosynthesis uses energy, it takes in light energy, we call that an endothermic process. Because respiration is the reverse of photosynthesis, it is an exothermic process. It releases energy from that glucose, and we refer to it as an exothermic reaction. If you need to pause, pause now. So some of that energy that's released by respiration is used for chemical reactions in the body. Lots of chemical reactions require energy, and we'll talk about that at the end of this lesson where we're looking at metabolism. We use that energy for movement, maintaining body temperature. We're warm-blooded, so therefore we maintain body temperature, which uses energy, okay? And those points there are straight from the course content, so it's what they are looking for you to recall in an exam situation. If you need to pause, pause now. Okay, so when does aerobic respiration stop? We talked about a lot how when we exercise, muscles use more energy, okay? So if they're using more energy, the first thing our body tries to do to stay in aerobic respiration for as long as possible, because it's a lot more efficient, is the heart rate increases. So the heart beats faster, that's transporting blood at a faster rate, which is moving the glucose, the oxygen to the cells for a faster rate of respiration, and also in turn removing the carbon dioxide and the water. To try and maximise the amount of oxygen that goes into the blood, we breathe at a faster rate and deeper breaths. So faster breathing rate and deeper breaths, taking in more oxygen each time to try and supply as much oxygen to those muscles as we possibly can to stay in that aerobic respiration position, okay? It gets to a point where our muscles are using so much energy that we start to feel that pain build up in the muscles, which is a build up of lactic acid. And it's then that we know that those cells in particular, the ones that are using more energy, if we're running, it's our leg muscles, if we're carrying heavy bags, it's our arm muscles, okay? Just those muscles that are using lots and lots of energy those cells will go into anaerobic respiration. It's the absence of the oxygen, the glucose is still there, and the glucose is broken into lactic acid, okay, releasing some energy. It's inefficient, it doesn't release as much energy, and the buildup of the lactic acid causes a burning sensation when you're exercising and results in this oxygen debt, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The built up lactic acid must be broken down and removed when the exercise stops. As soon as you stop exercising, you feel that kind of relief in the muscles as the lactic acid is being removed and the oxygen debt is being paid back. If you need to pause, pause now. We then randomly went on to anaerobic respiration in yeast, okay? And this is called fermentation. And it's what we do with yeast. We give the yeast glucose in anaerobic conditions, so without the presence of oxygen, the yeast are able to produce ethanol and carbon dioxide, and the ethanol is used to make alcoholic drinks, the wines, the beers, the spirits, and the carbon dioxide, we use yeast in bread, and it causes that bread to rise. The bubbles in the bread are bubbles of carbon dioxide. So we've got two really important functions for jobs that we create and products that we make. And we monitored it again using the Focus software. We monitored it by looking at how much carbon dioxide was produced when we gave the yeast different situations, so different temperature, different amount of glucose, that kind of thing. We were able to find out the optimum conditions for fermentation of yeast, and that was anaerobic respiration in yeast without the presence of oxygen. Okay, if you need to pause on that slide, pause now. Okay, we then had a look at exercise. This was one of our first distance learning lessons. We did some exercise, we compared our fitness to somebody else, and we said that there are three indicators of fitness. One was a fit person will have a lower resting heart rate. One was a fit person will have a lower heart rate after they've exercised, comparing the same exercise done at the same intensity for the same amount of time, and a fit person will have a shorter recovery time. And we said that recovery time was about how long it takes for your heart rate to return to normal, to return to that resting rate. Okay, we talked about fatigue. We said that when we use our muscles a lot, we are becoming fatigued. Quite a lot of parents who are trying out the Joe Wicks for the first time have found that they have muscle fatigue, but you got to fight through it. Okay, just keep going back each day and it will get better. We talked about the heart rate, we talked about the breathing rate already, and then we've got this idea of the oxygen debt and removing lactic acid. So what happens is that some of that lactic acid goes to the liver and it's converted back to glucose. Okay, and the oxygen debt is the amount of oxygen the body needs to react with all that lactic acid and remove it from the cells. Okay, so we've got the word equation there: lactic acid plus oxygen makes carbon dioxide and water. And you remember on that distance learning lesson I did, I talked about how it's kind of like a round the houses way of getting to the same point, because if you remember, aerobic respiration produces carbon dioxide and water, and also the oxygen debt, breaking down that lactic acid, gets to the same point, which is carbon dioxide and water. If you need to pause now. And our final slide is metabolism. We said that this is the rate at which all reactions in the cell or in the body take place. We said that respiration provides a lot of energy for other chemical reactions to take place. Respiration is the release of energy from the glucose that we eat, and then that energy that comes from that is used to build bigger molecules in protein synthesis that we'll talk about in another topic. It's used to store some of that glucose as glycogen. Okay, any chemical reactions that take place in the body either release energy, such as respiration, or use energy, such as building bigger molecules, chemical reactions that build things like glycogen, which we store our glucose as. If you remember, plants store theirs as starch. And also breaking down a protein. This is when we really are lacking in food and we need that energy from that protein. Okay, so we will, like I said before, we will bring all these ideas together because they're kind of come up in topics that we haven't yet covered, and so we need to understand all those ideas, and then we'll get a better grasp of metabolism. So metabolism is the rate of all the chemical reactions in the body or in a cell take place at. Respiration providing the energy, and other chemical reactions using that energy. So that is the end of B4. We've done most of the topic in class, we've done some of the topic in distance learning, we've done 3 revision lessons. On Thursday and Friday you have questions on Educate that you need to complete by the end of Friday, and then after Easter you will move over to your next teacher to teach your next topic. Okay, so make sure please that you get the Educate done. I will be checking that and chasing that to make sure that you understand all the learning from this topic. Hope you've enjoyed the distance learning. Hope you enjoy getting out and getting some fresh air, and also hope your work is going really well. Remember, stick with your work. We won't have time when we're back at school to learn it all again. We must learn it now and keep going along together in this distance learning process. Thanks very much. Bye.